Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, dead slaves, serfs, peasants, minions, meat sacks. Welcome. I'm a useful idiot, and today I'm going to talk about what those wacky Europeans are up to now. There's a report that came out in Reuters that talked about some new European report that seems to infer that the savings of most Euro citizens could possibly be confiscated. So anyway, now that I got your attention, let's get right to the gruesome details. So the report states that the savings of the European Union's 500 million citizens could be used to fund long-term investments to boost the economy and help plug the gap left by the banks since the financial crisis. So pretty startling statement. So it goes on to say that alternates to bank lending to finance small business infrastructure and other projects have to be found. And one direct quote is, "The economic and financial crisis has impaired the ability of the financial sector to channel funds to the real economy, in particular long-term investment," unquote. Looking into late 2014, they want to possibly draft a law to, quote, "mobilize more personal pension savings for long-term financing," unquote. So this seems to be clear that the savings of citizens, 500 million across the Eurozone, would somehow be have their funds confiscated and or traded out for some sort of government bonds in order to finance the gap left by huge financial institutions for infrastructure investments and small business. So rather peculiar plan, and like I say, it seems to repeat in several points about pension savings and channeling funds because banks can't do it. And so this seems to be clear. And there's other disturbing things in this report, but certainly that's the main one. So, and a study will also be done on the feasibility of introducing an EU savings account open to individuals whose funds could be pooled and invested in small companies. So this seems to verify that potentially the idea would be to trade out some kind of new EU savings account or bond in order to appropriate all these private citizens' pensions and funds and finance some more sustaining the Eurozone a little bit longer. And it kind of reminds me of the Obama Myra account he was talking about, some kind of new savings bond, some sort of new government investment bond that sounds awfully similar to this, a trade out in order to get people to put their investment funds back into the government, bail out the government with their pensions. And so seems to be the same sort of plan. And then the banks have been complaining that they are hindered from lending by new rules that require more capital reserves. And of course, a lot of these banks are sitting on a lot of cash, and they could make loans to smaller institutions and infrastructure. They just aren't. So they're out there speculating. So that's a snow job there. And then, of course, as you would guess, the EU also wants to revive the securitization market. The Commission will, quote, "take into account possible future increases in the liquidity of a number of securitization products," unquote, when it comes to finalizing a new rule on what can be considered assets by banks. This signals a possible loosening of the distinction of eligible assets. So there's a couple things that are a problem here. First of all, is they're trying to revive the mortgage-backed securities and asset-backed securities industry across Europe. And of course, this is not flying in the United States as well. So the Federal Reserve has to buy these sort of assets. So they're going to try and probably bail out the security products at some point. And then they're also, like I pointed out, they're finalizing a new rule on what can be considered asset by banks. So in other words, all these deteriorating mortgages, which is a huge tragedy all across Europe. Spain and Italy, both their banking systems are imploding from bad real estate assets, and this is happening all over Europe. And this is just like in the United States, where basically they suspended market-to-market rules, so none of the banks have to write down what the real assets worth of these so-called assets. Some of them are in the negative, and they haven't had to realize those losses. And so in the Eurozone, they're also going to do the same thing, where basically all these debts and all these losses will actually be able to be considered assets, especially these deteriorating mortgage-backed securities. And then on top of that, the Commission will also consider whether the use of fair value or pricing assets at the going rate is now globally agreed accounting rules is, quote, appropriate in particular regarding long-term investing business models, unquote. So that just reconfirms what I just said. They're going to consider the use of fair value of pricing assets. They're going to loosen that considerably in what they consider long-term investment vehicles, and so that'll help them out with stretching out investment bonds and government bonds. So anyway, there it is. There's more news about possible bail-ins, possible confiscation of pensions or funds, or at least trading them out. I hinted that in Obama's Myra accounts, and now we see on a larger scale the possibility that the EU would use the savings of the European Union's 500 million citizens to fund long-term investments, boost the economy, help plug the gap left by banks since the financial crisis, and using citizens' money in some sort of scheme. So I'll attach the articles below, and once again, something to watch. It seems like things are deteriorating pretty quickly on all fronts, and certainly in the Eurozone, and we're going to see more dramatic, gasping, creative efforts by central banks across the globe to sustain this new wave of deterioration. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.